We often talk about the Labour Party's links to extremist groups. In the past, we've talked about the communists. Recently, we've talked about the eco-militant activists, and now BLM-style organizations and very dodgy individuals. This is actually thanks to Charlie Peters with his exclusive investigation for GB News that uncovered a very, very dodgy story, essentially, at this point, when he talked about the Labour Party, Labour MPs, and all party parliamentary groups, and some very anti-British extremists. So, what's going on here? We have this all-party parliamentary groups. We have a number of them, obviously, on every topic. But one of them is about reparations. Of course, let's talk about reparations. It's 2023, but we're still obsessed about the past, despite the fact that Britain led the world in terms of abolishing slavery, in terms of sending out apologies to the rest of the world and everything else. But no. We still should be ashamed of our country, of our heritage, culture, and history. That's how the political left sees it, and the country. Ironically, this is the same political left who, on the one hand, they believe that this is a terrible country. On the other hand, they advocate for a lot of people from the third world and other places to come here. If this is so bad, why do we have so many migrants being obsessed with coming into the country? Anyway, let's talk about this woman, Esther Stanford Coze, who is one of the leading figures and was behind this all-party parliamentary group that had a lot of Labour MPs also involved. And they've been going around advocating for not just reparations. These people are a little bit radical, let's just say, a little bit radical. They are going out there and essentially attacking people who have a lighter skin colour, if they happen to be white, and if they happen to be natives in Britannia. So this report had a couple of bits. So they have a couple of speeches and some Zoom meetings that these people had that Charlie Peters discovered. First, let's go to the first speech that this woman made recently.
Here, not because of being British.
We were here before you.
We were here before them, but we have a right to be here because of everything that Britain has stolen from us. So we have to claim land wherever we are.
We have to claim land wherever we are because decades ago, centuries ago, the British Empire went to different continents. It has nothing to do with you. Just because your skin is slightly darker, that doesn't mean you have anything to do with what happened centuries ago. It makes absolutely no sense. I always talk about this on the channel. If we're going to be obsessed about the past, our ancestors, then everybody should demand reparations and apologies. We had the Muslim Empire going around. We had the Ottomans. We had Genghis Khan. We had so many people in Europe being enslaved as well. So everybody... we're talking about the time about nations were either empires or wanted to be empires. And that stopped. Well, you think, but there's still a globalist movement going around. But that's not the only thing they said. They also went around attacking every single group that is not basically black. So this is actually, it gets worse actually. This is actually another video that Charlie Peters discovered, some sort of Zoom meeting, that this woman talked about how the CIA was behind the BLM movement or something nonsensical like that.
This is obviously a good thing, but if you don't realize that it's part of an agenda that involves CIA, MI5, MI6, and some of us know it very well, okay? That's all I can really say on this platform.
Hang on. So CIA, MI5, and MI6 were behind the BLM movement. So... I mean, anything could happen. Conspiracies do happen. But if you provide evidence, it would be very helpful. If I could just go around and start with theories without backing them up, I could say a lot. I could say how the Italians are in charge of the Japanese banking system, and in reality, they're getting their resources from Mars because they found something in the oceans about how gold could be turned into strawberries. And avocados are not actually from this planet. I could say a lot, but you need to have evidence. You're talking about nonsense. Anyway, this one is another person part of this group who went around and said that the Jews are not real Jews or something like that.
The scripture says they say they are Jews, but they are not Jews. And God says, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan.
Yeah, okay. So basically, the idea was to say that only black people are oppressed Nobody else is. They actually talked about the Jews. They also talk about Muslims and everybody else, saying they claim to be oppressed. But no. We are more oppressed. The Western black community who are now educated, they have jobs, and they're living in free West. They are very, very oppressed. Absolutely oppressed. The Jews are not real. It's so bad. You remember we had Labour MPs standing up in the House of Commons, for example, who were part of this APPG, going around saying that we need reparations. And for once, Rishi Sunak said the right thing, and he said, no, go away.
So I want to ask the Prime Minister today if he will do what Bernie Grant asked all those years ago, what I have asked and what countless others have asked since, and offer a full and meaningful apology for our country's role in slavery and colonialism and commit to reparatory justice.
No, Mr. Speaker. What I think our focus should now be on doing is, of course, understanding our history in all its parts, not running away from it.
Yeah, we get. Also, I have a problem with when I see members of Parliament. How do these people become a member of Parliament, the top of the British political power, yet they can't say ask? I mean, it's not difficult to say ask. I asked the Prime Minister. Anyway, these are not important issues to focus on, guys. But we had also during this investigation, the report that Charlie Peters did, we also had the director of Don't Divide Us coming out to express her opinion about how these movements are dividing the country.
The far more worrying problem is the political irresponsibility shown by APPG when they take these ideas seriously, because these are ideas that are frankly reintroducing racialised thinking into British society, that it's establishing legitimacy for seeing everything through a racialised lens. And absolutely no good can come of this at all. It's extremely divisive.
Right, now we're joined by the man behind the reports, Charlie Peters, the investigative reporter for GB News. Welcome to the show, Charlie. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
So firstly, you've single-handedly been embarrassing the rest of the mainstream media by doing a lot of good work. At first, you had that the documentary on the grooming scandals. These are the sort of things that we used to expect Sky News to do, for example, or the good days of BBC. And now you've done on this one. So how did you find this out, and what was the kind of the thought process? Because these sort of stories, they don't get any attention anymore.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, a lot of these groups and many of the people that GB News Investigates focuses on escape all sorts of criticism in the rest of the media. And generally speaking, I don't think there's an enormous amount of interest paid by much of the broadcast media into these individuals. And the whole mission that we have is to close the gap between the stories that I think matter the most to people, but receive the least attention from other people. And I think this story is a prime example of that. I mean, we come across these stories due to good leads, good tips, but also if you look through the same characters and the same individuals and the same groups, they pop up over and over again with these extremely controversial associations and remarks. And you barely have to scratch the surface with some of these characters, and all sorts of madness will come to the surface. And the links between Parliament and Labour MPs, and indeed a Conservative MP, Sir Peter Bottomley, in this story, well, we couldn't ignore it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, for those of you who've been watching, we showed you the short clips of some of the parts of that. If you want to watch the whole thing, go on GB News' YouTube channel, or if you're actually watching it later on, it will be repeated on TV. But you mentioned earlier on GB News that the actual short clip that you had to produce couldn't include everything else. So what else did they say during those speeches and meetings?
Well, it was some of the most concerning stuff that was included. And you saw one clip there where one of the speakers at this event, where the reparations APPG founder attended and didn't challenge, one of those speakers said that Jews belonged to the, quote, synagogue of Satan. He's quoting from the Bible there, but he says that they're not the real Jews. And he goes on to say, how can we be anti-Semitic when those of African heritage are the real Jews? We're the real Semitic people. Obviously, very strong claim to make, quite ludicrous and very conspiratorial. And I think a lot of commentators looking at the story today have said, just how prevalent is this kind of thinking within those communities? Our concern is that it is extremely prevalent. And that's indicated, I think, by the fact that when it was said, there was no challenge. There was no challenge by other people on the panel, no challenge by people in the audience. And he also, he referred to the rapper Wiley facing criticism for his comments, and other former senior members of the so-called Hotep movement, a conspiratorial movement that believed that black heritage people were the first Egyptians, etc., and that they built the pyramids. So a conspiracy theory movement that gets a lot of credibility and support in some of these online groups. And other bits that we didn't include, we had one clip where this man who we quoted on the Synagogue of Satan stuff, he also said that, oh, well, Jews have been profiting from our enslavement process for many years, etc. So tying them up in colonialism and slavery as well, which is relevant to this all-party parliamentary group that has links to not only Labour MPs, but a Green MP, SNP MP, and indeed a Conservative representative, Sir Peter Bottomley, which gives it a PPG legitimacy.
So, I mean, yeah, the conspiracy theories, especially about the Egyptians, absolutely hilarious. Firstly, aliens built the pyramids. Secondly, no, that's a joke, guys. But they're gonna trim this clip and post it on Twitter.
Both of our lives are finished after that. I mean, GB News investigates the pyramids. It'll be a great special.
You should do it. But you mentioned Bottomley. So has he just been associated with the APBG? Clearly, that means that well, obviously these groups have to be cross-party. But has he responded? Has he reacted to any of this now that he knows?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, all APPGs need a government representative in order to be announced, in order to be sufficient. There are hundreds of these APPGs. I mean, there are country ones, the most common, an APPG for Afghanistan or for Armenia, etc., etc. But these politically niche campaigns, such as reparations, obviously a very controversial far-left progressive campaign, to have a Conservative MP on that APPG to give it that political legitimacy is, I think, very controversial, and a lot of commentators and people reacting to this story at GB News very concerned about that link, because it comes at a time, of course, when Rishi Sunak is trying to push this so-called war on woke.
Yeah.
We know last year Rishi Sunak said that his government wants to deal with woke nonsense, a direct quote, woke nonsense. Well, Mr. Sunak, one of your MPs here has given institutional legitimacy, the seal of parliament, on a group whose founder, who helped launch the movement, Esther Stanford Coze, to complains about the corporate white stream media. Imagine just for a moment that someone with different politics to Stanford Coze complained about the black stream media.
Oh, yeah.
They'd probably be arrested. And this kind of commentary not only escapes criticism and is avoided, it's given parliamentary legitimacy. I think that's very concerning stuff.
That's actually a spot on. There are a lot of APPGs. In fact, actually, I'm trying to set one up with the help of other new media outlets, a new media APPG, and we will. Yeah, I'm trying to get Novara Media and a few others as well to make it obviously cross platform, cross party. But we'll see how that goes. And also, I'm actually trying to, on this channel, to start doing short documentaries. So when GB News kick you out, you'll have a job here, Charlie. When you get cancelled by the mainstream. Thank you so much, Charlie Peters, for coming on the show. As we said, make sure to check out the full video. It is on GB News' YouTube channel. Also, if you're watching the channel itself on TV, it will be repeated, I'm guessing, later tonight, right?
That's right. Yeah. Thanks very much, Mahyar. Have a good day. Thanks all for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.